Kiera Vaughn didn't blink when her assistant told her the wedding was scheduled for Saturday. She only blinked when she remembered she didn't have a groom. "Tell the board it's handled," Kiera said, voice sharp as the click of her Laubautins on the marble floor of Vaughn Enterprises' 47th floor. She turned into her glass office, slammed the door shut, and muttered, "It'll be handled in 72 hours. Somehow, the problem was her grandfather's will. The company's founder had left a clause stating she had to be married and settled by 30 if she wanted full control of the board. Apparently, being the youngest female CEO in the company's history wasn't enough. She had 3 days left. Kiera didn't do failure, but she also didn't do relationships. Her longest one had been with her espresso machine, so she needed a fake fiancé, fast. "Try casting agencies," she muttered, pacing. "No, too obvious, security team, no." Weird. Then her eyes landed on the maintenance report on her desk. A burst pipe had flooded the basement daycare last week. She flipped through the file, pausing on the photo of a man holding a laughing little girl in his arms, soaked but smiling. The man had kind eyes, a strong jaw, and a worn flannel shirt that clung to his rain-drenched chest. Kiera narrowed her eyes. The maintenance supervisor's note read, "Name, Isaac Hayes, daughter, Camilla Hayes, works 2 jobs, widowed, helped evacuate kids during the flood. Bingo." "I'm sorry you want me to. Pretend to be your fiancé." Isaac stared at her like she'd grown a second head. He was tall, broad-shouldered, with dark hair and a 5 o'clock shadow that did unfair things to her composure. His daughter Camilla sat beside him, swinging her legs and holding a juice box. "Yes," Kiera said, sliding the NDA and contract across the table in the staff lounge. 72 hours. You show up to a dinner, a gala, and a quick courthouse wedding. The board signs over control. We annul it next week. You get $100,000, no strings. Isaac blinked. "That's insane." "I'm offering you financial security, Camilla's education, a new apartment. You won't have to work 2 jobs anymore." He looked down at the contract, then at Camilla, who was now humming to herself and drawing hearts on a napkin. "If I do this," Isaac said slowly, "Camilla doesn't get left with strangers. She stays with me at all times." "Of course," Kiera said. "I'm not a monster." He leaned back, arms crossed. "Why not just date someone? I don't do dating. I do spreadsheets." He actually laughed. "Wow, you're serious, Deadly." He exhaled. "You really trust a janitor with your entire company's future?" Kiera met his gaze evenly. "I trust that you're desperate enough not to blow this, and honest enough not to blackmail me." Isaac looked at Camilla again. She smiled at him with grape juice on her chin. He reached for the pen. 3 days later, Kiera stood beside Isaac in a custom white dress that cost more than his entire annual income, staring at the justice of the peace as cameras clicked from the invited press. Isaac wore a tailored navy suit she'd had fitted for him, and he looked so good in it that she'd spent most of the car ride over trying not to stare at his hands. "This is ridiculous," Isaac whispered, leaning in as the officiant talked. "We just met. I don't even know your middle name. You're not supposed to fall in love with me," she whispered back. "You're just supposed to smile and nod." He gave her a look. "You think I'm gonna fall for you? Well, let's not pretend I'm not a catch," he chuckled. "All right, Mrs. Vaughn Hayes. Temporary." But when he slipped the ring on her finger, her stomach did a strange little flip. The applause from the board and staff was thunderous. They kissed just a quick peck, for show, and she ignored the way her skin tingled where he'd touched her waist. The first night in her penthouse was supposed to be simple. She'd arranged for Isaac and Camilla to have the guest wing 2 bedrooms, private bath, a view of Central Park. Instead, at midnight, she found Isaac in the kitchen making grilled cheese while Camilla curled up on the counter half asleep. She wouldn't settle in the new room, he said softly. I didn't want to leave her alone. Kiera, barefoot in silk pajamas, watched the way he gently brushed Camilla's curls back and kissed her forehead. Do you want to eat? He asked, holding out a plate. She hesitated, then sat at the island stool. Sure, they ate in silence, the soft hum of the city beyond the windows. You know, he said after a while, you're not what I expected. Bossy, cold. No, you're lonely. She looked up sharply. Excuse me, you work all day, live alone in a huge place and fake married a stranger. That screams lonely. She opened her mouth to snap back but stopped. He wasn't wrong. I'm not good at people, she said finally. I'm good at business. Maybe you just haven't met people worth being good for. She looked at him, heart thudding louder than it should have. Then Camilla stirred and mumbled, Daddy, can Kiera be the one who tucks me in tomorrow? Kiera blinked. Isaac smiled at her. You up for it? Kiera nodded slowly. Yeah, I think I am. And just like that, the lines between fake and real started to blur. You can't wear that, Kiera said, arms folded as Isaac stepped into the room wearing a basic black suit and a confused expression. Isaac looked down at himself, then back at her. It's tailored. You had it delivered yesterday, for the wedding. Tonight's the Vaughn Foundation Gala. It's black tie, that is, funeral tie, he raised an eyebrow. Didn't realize there were levels to this. There are levels to everything, she said, already turning toward the garment bags hanging on the rack. Try this. She handed him a tuxedo with velvet lapels and a crisp white shirt. He looked at it like it might bite him. I work with boilers and busted pipes, Kiera, not bow ties and caviar. She met his gaze evenly. Tonight, you're the fiancé of the CEO of a billion-dollar enterprise. You need to look like you belong. He took the tux and disappeared into the guest suite. By the time he emerged, Kiera's phone was still in her hand, but her attention had long since drifted from her emails. She stared, briefly forgetting how to blink. He looked like he'd stepped off the cover of a fashion magazine's strong shoulders, sharp lines, and the kind of quiet confidence that made the tuxedo his, not the other way around. Is it on backward? He asked. No, she said, throat dry. It's perfect. Camilla peeked out from the hallway, clapping her hands. Daddy looks like a movie star, Isaac laughed, scooped her up, and kissed her cheek. You're just saying that because I gave you extra marshmallows this morning. No, Camilla said with a grin, because you do. Kiera cleared her throat. The nanny will be here at 6:30. She came highly recommended, former preschool teacher, fully vetted. Camilla will be asleep before we're done with the gala. Isaac's expression shifted. She's not used to strangers. She won't be alone, Kiera said. The woman's name is Marcia. She's already met Camilla once when you were at the tailor. They baked cookies. Isaac looked at Camilla, who nodded. She helped me make the frosting, he exhaled. All right, but if she cries, she won't, Kiera said. She told me herself she's excited to watch the Penguin documentary again. Camilla bounced on her feet. The one where they slide on their bellies, exactly, Kiera said, smiling. By the time they walked into the ballroom, the chandeliers above them shimmered like falling stars, and every eye turned in their direction. The crowd parted as they entered Kiera radiant in a deep navy gown with a plunging neckline and Isaac beside her, every inch the devoted fiancé. But even surrounded by CEOs, politicians, and socialites, Isaac didn't flinch. You sure you want people thinking this is real? He whispered as they moved through the crowd. Just smile and hold my hand, she said under her breath. And don't drink anything you can't pronounce. He glanced down at their intertwined fingers. You're shaking. It's just the press. They'll swarm, stay close. I'll be a shadow. Before she could respond, a voice boomed behind them. Kiera. You didn't tell us you were bringing arm candy tonight. They turned to find Damon Langford, one of the senior board members, grinning with a glass of whiskey in hand. He looked Isaac over with open skepticism. This is Isaac, Kiera said coolly. My fiancé. Damon raised an eyebrow. Fiancé, huh? Interesting timing. Timing is everything, Isaac said, voice calm but firm. Isn't that what you said in last quarter's shareholder meeting, Damon? About the merger? Damon blinked, caught off guard. You were watching that, of course, Isaac said easily. I like to know what my future wife deals with. Kiera's lips parted slightly. She hadn't expected that. Damon gave a tight smile. Well then, welcome to the lion's den. As the man walked off, Kiera turned to Isaac. How did you know about the merger? I read the newsletter you left on the kitchen counter. Figured I should at least act like I know what I'm doing. You didn't just act, you played him, he shrugged. I've spent years dealing with vendors who try to cheat me out of time and pay. People like that, all bark. She looked at him, something unfamiliar flickering in her chest. You really don't scare easy, do you? I've changed diapers in the middle of a blackout during a plumbing emergency. This, he gestured around. This is just a party. Before she could respond, a waiter approached with flutes of champagne. Isaac took one, then offered Kiera the other. To pretending, he said, but when their eyes met, the toast didn't feel quite so pretend. Later, while she was speaking with a donor, Kiera caught sight of Isaac near the dessert table, crouched beside a woman in a wheelchair, holding a plate and clearly listening as she gestured animatedly. She found him again near the silent auction, chatting with a nervous intern who looked like she might faint. And again, by the coat check, where he helped an elderly gentleman find his missing cufflink. By the end of the night, people weren't asking who he was. They were asking how she'd found him. "You're different," she said quietly as they rode home in the car, the city lights painting golden streaks across his jaw. He glanced at her. "I'm not trying to be. That's the difference." When they arrived home, Camilla was already asleep, curled up in a blanket fort in the living room. A plate of cookie crumbs sat beside her. "She wanted to wait for you," Marcia said softly, gathering her things, "but she couldn't fight the penguins." "I'll carry her," Isaac said, gently lifting his daughter in his arms. Kiera watched them disappear down the hall, her heels in one hand, her dress rumpled from hours of wear, but her chest full of something she couldn't quite name. Isaac returned, pausing at the threshold of her room. "You looked beautiful tonight," he said. "You didn't look so bad yourself." They stood there for a beat, neither moving. "I'll see you in the morning," he said finally, but as he turned, she reached out. "Isaac." He stopped. "Thank you for tonight." His eyes held hers. "Anytime, Kiera." When he left, she stood alone in the quiet penthouse, the echo of his voice lingering longer than it should have. Kiera was late, not fashionably late, not the kind of late that made an entrance. She was the kind of late that made board members whisper and assistants pace. Her own assistant had called twice. She ignored both. She was parked outside a public elementary school in Queens, engine idle, sunglasses on, staring at the playground like it held state secrets. Isaac had mentioned Camilla's class had a field day today. He hadn't invited her. She hadn't said she'd come. And yet, there she was. The field was dotted with paper flags and homemade obstacle courses. Parents lined the edge of the grass, clapping politely as kids tumbled through hoops and beanbag tosses. She spotted Camilla instantly, knees scraped, hair in crooked braids, laughing so hard she tripped over her shoelaces. Isaac crouched beside her, tying them with practiced ease, then tapped her nose. Camilla beamed. Kiera was still watching when a knock startled her. "You stalking my kid now?" Isaac asked, leaning into her window. His voice was amused, but his eyes were sharp. "I had a lunch canceled," she said, pushing her sunglasses to her head. "And I was in the area." She rolled her eyes. "Don't flatter yourself. I brought the dry cleaning." "Your spare suit was wrinkled." "Right, because you always personally deliver dry cleaning across boroughs. Don't be smug." "I'm not, just wondering if this means you're going soft on me." "I don't do soft." He leaned in slightly. "You watched her for 20 minutes. It was 10. 15, fine," she snapped. "She's funny, so what?" Isaac's grin faded. "She likes you. She likes everyone." "No," he said quietly, "she doesn't." Kiera blinked, thrown off by the weight in his voice. She looked away, jaw tight. "I should go. She's up in the next race. Stay 5 more minutes." "Why?" "Because she keeps checking the fence for you." Kiera hesitated, then stepped out of the car. Camilla spotted her almost immediately and waved so hard her bracelet flew off. Kiera bent to retrieve it, brushing grass from the beads. "You came." Camilla bounced in place. "We're doing the wheelbarrow race next. Daddy says I'm terrible at it, but I said maybe I'll get better if I pretend to be a penguin." "You just might," Kiera said, slipping the bracelet back on her wrist. "Do penguins win a lot of races?" "Nope," Camilla said cheerfully, "but they fall funny." Kiera laughed, surprising herself. Isaac approached, holding 2 lemonades. "I bribed the snack stand lady to give me extra ice." Kiera took the cup, their fingers brushing. "You didn't have to come," he said. "I didn't," she replied, sipping, "but I think I would have regretted it if I hadn't." He studied her. "What changed?" She watched Camilla tumble into a pile of hula hoops. "I'm starting to understand what matters." Later that evening, back at the penthouse, Kiera found herself in the kitchen again, barefoot, sleeves rolled up, watching Isaac teach Camilla how to slice strawberries without removing a fingertip. I thought you said you weren't domestic, he said, glancing over as she leaned on the counter. I'm not. I just own the kitchen. Camilla held up a misshapen piece. I made a heart. It's beautiful, Kiera said. Isaac handed her a plate. We're making crepes. Camilla's new obsession. You cook, I survive. But tonight we're pretending we're in Paris. Do we need accents? Only if you want to offend every French person alive. They ate at the island, powdered sugar dusting the marble like snow. Camilla told them about her favorite teacher, who sometimes wore socks that didn't match, and the boy in her class who tried to eat glitter. Kiera tried not to laugh with her mouth full. After Camilla went to bed, Isaac lingered in the hallway, arms crossed, watching Kiera straighten a stack of magazines on the coffee table. You don't have to keep pretending, he said. She looked up. Pretending what? That this is still just about the board, the will. Your company. She set the last magazine down. Isn't it? I don't think you know any more. She crossed to the window, the city sprawling below them in glittering silence. I built everything I have, she said. No trust fund, no help. Just a college scholarship and years of never sleeping. I believe you. I've never made time for anything that didn't have a return. Then why are you here, with us? She turned, her voice quieter. Because I think I finally found something worth the time. Isaac stepped closer. Then what happens when the deadline passes? When the board hands over control, there was a beat of silence. I don't want it to end, she said. He reached out, tilting her chin up. Then don't end it. She kissed him first. It wasn't careful, it wasn't measured or strategic. It was the kind of kiss that made time drop out from under you. His hands slid to her waist. Her fingers curled into his collar, and when they finally pulled back, she was breathless. I didn't plan for this, she whispered. Neither did I. Another pause. But I'm not sorry, he said. She wasn't either, not even a little. Kiera didn't notice the silence in her office until her phone stopped vibrating. She stared at the screen. 15 missed calls, all from Gerald Langston, chairman of the Vaughn board. She pressed the intercom. Put him through. Gerald's voice burst through, sharp and clipped. We need to talk now. You're being accused of fraud. She didn't move. Excuse me. An anonymous tip came this morning. Someone's claiming your marriage is fake, that it was arranged just to meet the will's clause. If this goes public, they have no proof. They have photos, timelines, witness statements. The board is convening in an hour. If you don't show with answers, you'll lose everything. The line cut. She sat back, pulse pounding. She hadn't told anyone. She'd filed paperwork. They'd kissed in front of press, attended functions. What proof could anyone have unless? She stood so fast her chair rolled back. Her eyes locked on the framed photo on her desk, one Camilla had drawn of Daddy and Kiera and sprinkles, with hearts all around. She couldn't lose them, not now. When she arrived at the penthouse, Isaac was helping Camilla pack crayons into a zippered pouch. He looked up, instantly alert. What happened? Someone's trying to expose us. His jaw tightened. Who? I don't know, but the board's meeting. If they believe it, they can challenge the inheritance clause. I lose voting rights permanently, he stood. Then let's go, I'll tell them it's real, she hesitated. Are you sure? I told you I wouldn't let you do this alone. Camilla tugged on Kiera's hand. Do I have to go? No, Isaac said, kneeling to her level. You're going to stay with Marcia, okay? She brought your favorite juice boxes. Camilla looked between them, then wrapped her arms around Kiera's waist. Come back soon. Kiera held her tightly, then whispered, We will. At Vaughn Enterprises, the boardroom was already filled. Gerald sat at the head, flanked by the other 12 members. Damon Langford leaned against the back wall, arms folded, eyes gleaming. Kiera walked in with Isaac beside her, hand in hand. Gerald didn't waste time. We've received photos from a source claiming your marriage isn't genuine, that it was a transaction designed to satisfy Charles Vaughn's final clause. Kiera didn't blink. The clause stated I must be married. Not that I must fall in love. Be careful, Damon cut in. You're admitting motive. Isaac stepped forward. Then let me speak. Some of the board members shifted, surprised. I was working maintenance when Kiera approached me with a proposal, Isaac said. At the time, yeah, it was a transaction. I did it for my daughter. I did it because we didn't have a lot of choices. Then it was a business deal, Damon said triumphantly. It was, Isaac said. But it's not anymore. Silence. He looked at Kiera and something in her chest cracked open. I didn't plan on meeting someone like her, someone who works 16-hour days and still remembers my daughter's favorite book, someone who taught Camilla how to fold napkins into swans just because she thought it would be fun, someone who doesn't run when things get hard. She shows up. Every time. He turned back to the room. I didn't expect to fall for her, but I did. Kiera inhaled sharply. Gerald narrowed his eyes. That's a beautiful speech, Mr. Hayes, but how do we know it's true? Isaac reached into his pocket and pulled out a small velvet box. He opened it without fanfare. Inside was a delicate band with a single diamond set in a thin platinum curve. I bought this 3 days ago, he said. With my own money, not hers. I was going to wait, but I guess now's the time. He turned to Kiera and dropped to one knee. Several gasps echoed through the room. Kiera Vaughn, I know this started backwards, but everything since then has been real. I love you. I love Camilla. I want the real thing, not just the contract. Will you marry me for real this time? She stared at him, heart in her throat. The room disappeared, only him, only that moment. Yes, she whispered, then louder. Yes. He slid the ring onto her finger and stood. She pulled him into a kiss, press, and politics be damned. When they broke apart, Gerald cleared his throat. Well. That answers that. Damon opened his mouth to object, but Gerald cut him off. You tried to humiliate her, and you failed. This meeting's over. As the board filed out, Gerald paused beside Kiera. Your grandfather would have hated this, he said. She arched a brow. Because he hated romance? No, Gerald said. Because he would have liked Isaac better than any man he ever picked for you. Outside, as they stepped into the sun, reporters swarmed. Kiera didn't let go of Isaac's hand. A question shouted from the crowd. Was it all fake? Isaac pulled her closer and kissed her again, right there on the courthouse steps. That was answer enough. By the time they made it home, Camilla was waiting in the hallway with a gold paper crown on her head. Did you win? She asked. Kiera knelt and held out her hand. What do you think? Camilla's eyes widened. You got a real ring, she said. Yes, Isaac added. Camilla squealed and threw her arms around both of them. Later that night, as they curled up on the couch, Camilla asleep between them, Kiera rested her head on Isaac's shoulder. I didn't think I'd ever have this, she murmured. Not just the company, the rest of it. He kissed the top of her head. You didn't hire a fiancé, Kiera. You found your family. She looked down at Camilla's tiny hand wrapped in hers, and for once she didn't want more. She had everything. Isaac adjusted his cufflinks as he stood in front of the full-length mirror in the penthouse's bedroom, not the guest suite. That had quietly become a distant memory. The morning sun filtered through the floor-to-ceiling windows, casting a warm glow across the space that now bore signs of 3 lives instead of 1. A pair of tiny sneakers sat beside his polished dress shoes. A pink headband peeked out from beneath the edge of the rug. And on the vanity, nestled beside Kiera's perfume, rested a framed photo of them on the courthouse steps, her lips still parted from laughter, his hand cradling her waist like he never meant to let go. Behind him, Kiera folded a small white cardigan and tucked it into Camilla's overnight bag. You sure she'll be okay at the museum sleepover? She asked, her voice lighter than it used to be but still with an edge of maternal concern. Marcia's chaperoning, Isaac said. And Camilla made a checklist for every hour. I think she's more prepared than I am. Kiera zipped the bag and looked up. You're more nervous than she is. He met her gaze in the mirror. First night without her since, ever. Kiera stepped behind him and wrapped her arms around his waist. You're allowed to miss her, but you're also allowed to be here, with me. He turned and kissed her forehead. I want both. You have both. The doorbell rang. Camilla appeared moments later, wearing a glittery backpack and twirling a flashlight like a baton. Don't forget to feed Bernard, she said, handing Isaac a note. He's the plant in the pink pot. He gets nervous when I'm gone. Isaac saluted. I'll keep him company. She hugged them both, then skipped off with Marcia, who gave Kiera a reassuring nod before heading out. As the elevator doors closed, Kiera exhaled. So, just us. Isaac lifted a brow. You sound alarmed. I don't remember the last time I was alone in this penthouse without an agenda. He took her hand. Let's fix that. They spent the afternoon walking through the conservatory garden, hand in hand, no cameras trailing them, no press releases waiting to be reviewed. For once, her phone stayed buried in her bag. They ate gelato from paper cups under the shade of a magnolia tree, traded stories they'd never had time to tell. Isaac told her about the first time Camilla had called him Dad and how he'd cried in the cereal aisle. Kiera admitted she used to fall asleep in the college library because she couldn't afford heating in her apartment. "Did you ever think you'd end up here?" he asked, watching her dip her spoon into his cup without asking. "Running a company?" "Yes," she said. "But with you, with her, never. Not because I didn't want it, I just didn't think it was an option." "You can have both, Kiera. You already do." He kissed her then, slow and sure, in the middle of the garden, where the only witnesses were a few lazy pigeons and an elderly couple playing chess. By evening, they returned home and danced barefoot in the kitchen to an old jazz record Isaac found buried in the cabinet. She laughed when he spun her too fast. He caught her before she stumbled, their laughter echoing against marble and glass. Later, they curled up on the couch, the city lights flickering like stars behind them. Her head rested on his chest, his fingers stroking the inside of her wrist. "I don't want this to be temporary anymore," he said. She looked up, her eyes already knowing. "It's not. I'm serious, Kiera. Not for show, not for the board. I want the wedding, the vows. I want to wake up next to you every morning and argue about who left the fridge open." She smiled. "You always leave it open. I want to teach Camilla how to ride a bike. I want to grow old with you. I want all of it." She leaned in, her forehead against his. "Then let's start planning." They married in a small ceremony 2 months later in a rooftop garden under a canopy of string lights and blush-colored roses. Camilla wore a white dress with sparkles and insisted on walking both of them down the aisle. Isaac cried when she handed him the rings. Kiera did too, something she never thought she'd do in front of people. They didn't invite the press. No board members. Just the people who mattered. Her assistant, who'd become a friend, their nanny Marcia, Camilla's favorite teacher, and Isaac's sister, who flew in from Oregon and brought cookies shaped like wrenches. That night, they didn't fly off to a private island or escape on a yacht. They stayed home, built a pillow fort in the living room, and ate cake with their hands. Camilla passed out halfway through a bedtime story, her head in Kiera's lap, one hand still gripping her new stepmother's fingers. Isaac looked over from where he sat on the floor, his tie undone, his eyes soft. "This is what forever looks like," he said. Kiera nodded, brushing a strand of hair from Camilla's face. "It's better than I imagined." He kissed her, slow and full of promise. "We're home, Kiera," and they were. A year later, Kiera stood onstage at a gala not for Vaughn Enterprises, but for a scholarship program she and Isaac had launched together. It provided education grants for young parents and their children. She spotted Camilla in the front row, wearing a tiny blazer and clapping with such enthusiasm she nearly knocked over her juice. Isaac stood beside her, holding her hand in front of hundreds of people, and she knew with absolute certainty this was the life she didn't know she needed. Not built on power or perfection, but on love, laughter, and second chances, and it was hers. Forever.